Hey everybody, it's Dinosa again. Now I'm doing my second film, Napoleon Dynamite, which I have ruthlessly tried to avoid because of similarities of me and this Folio. Um, yeah, I don't have the hair he has, but there are some things he did say that are kind of some things like I've said. Uh, as you know, like I'm remodeling, so like all my stuff back here is like all freaking a mess. But um, anyway, what's going on? This whole film was Napoleon. Oh, one thing before I get too involved in that, there is one major thing with the Notebook, the previous review, I left out, and that was the song. The main song, where it was a World War II song. It was sung by many people, but let's see. When I when I look at the moon, I'll be seeing you. I think that's the name of the song. Actually, I did not hear that song the first time in that movie. Ironically, I heard it because of a former World War II veteran who was actually there. Um, it was actually, believe it or not, Charles Schultz, and with his last movie, is Bon Voyage, Charlie Brown, when Snoopy was in the cafe drinking root beer because he thought it was a World War II ace, the whole thing, and they were playing that song on the jukebox, and that's where I remembered that song because I was like, I know this song. So I didn't mention that in the other video, and I just thought about that after I finished it up. I was like, oh well. So I'm glad we got that in there. The other thing, which I wanted to say, forget. I don't remember what it was. I remember the song though. But anyway, this review is about Napoleon Dynamite, which I again have desperately tried to avoid. Everyone has said how funny this film is and all that. And I was like, I look at the guy, and he is like the fluffy hair, red. It's brown, but it's really red. It's like, whoa, dude. And he's like, he's like constantly breathing. Has glasses. He's the kind of guy that has no confidence in himself. And he gets pushed around by everyone, and bullies and stuff. But his whole thing is Napoleon Dynamite. He lives in this place called Idaho, which, not place, state Idaho. I think it was, let me see, I actually have written Preston, Idaho. He goes to Preston High School. And I have to admit, for Idahoans, no offense, I'm not too sure the girls that were represented in this film were actually there, but I could be wrong. I question Summer. She looks more like a Cali girl than an Idaho girl. Trisha, yes, but not Summer. Summer is more of a Cali girl. But anyway, the whole intro starts out, which cleverly is like food. It talks about just shows like hamburgers, bean burritos, everything. And the whole film, which it's hard for me to sum the whole thing up. It's basically a guy that's kind of out of place. His grandma just likes to have fun, and he has his brother who's kind of a wuss too. And they have this uncle who's like this tough guy, but he's like just a loser in life. And Napoleon, he's like, oh, he doesn't know how to talk to girls. He doesn't know how to flow. It's just kind of whack because the grandma doesn't care, and grandma's like going off doing her thing because they're kind of hopeless. They're like, oh, I talk in chat rooms. And they're acting just like stupid, like, oh, come over here, hit me. Oh, this brother, Kip, I think his name is, and it's always like, he had this catchphrase, like, gosh, on that, you idiot, gosh, and I was like, okay. And the only thing I will say, he said idiot a lot, and I say that a lot when I'm dealing with some morons out there. I'm like, idiot! And maybe that's a common reaction, but I have that problem. But anyway, the whole premise starts about, with Napoleon going to school, hating high school, and he wanting to leave high school because he doesn't have his chapstick. He really just hates it. He doesn't want to be here. He thinks this is a joke. And his grandma, the way he's treated, is a joke. And then it's kind of still, see, I thought I'd see more of him just being crazy and all that, but it wasn't that. It was like, it's almost depressing to even watch it, because it showed like all the kids kind of making fun of him, like bullies picking on him, and then him lying, like my girl in Oklahoma, or I kill Wolverines with a 12 gauge shotgun. You don't kill Wolverines with a 12 gauge shotgun. Use a 30-06 and you stay your distance, because those things don't forgive. And last I checked, I know Wolverines are in like Montana and North Dakota. I'm not too sure they're in Alaska. I could be wrong, but I don't think. I think it would have been more credible if you said bears or moose or something. Wolverines, I'm not sure if they're up that high, but I could be wrong. I know for sure they're in Canada. It's Alaska, I question. So he basically tells lie after lie after lie about stuff, about just, oh, and I'm like trying to sound cool. And, because he's a loser he knows he's kind of a loser in his heart, and he doesn't know how to deal with it, and he justifies it by, like, lying, which is stuff that I did in the past while trying to justify myself. And, that's the one thing with a lot of things my father did, I'm not going to do with a kid on that, because I'm going to tell them the truth, and I'm basically going to make their dad credible, not do this because I told you to do it, because I said I do it because I'm your dad. That doesn't work with me, and it never worked with me, and it shouldn't work for a kid. It should be, do this because I'm doing this, and this is the smart move to do. And if you don't, they'll be punished, but I still love you. I'm still going to do all these things for you, but you're going to do this. And you show them credibility. Such as like here's an example I could give, is like, what's more credible? A dad that goes to the gym or is working, gym, and he takes time to hear what kid has to say the best he can, but he's always caring about something, like his weight, is that, just always caring about something, rather than one of these other dads that kind of let themselves go and and just like a drunk. And just saying, like, I'll do this because I told you to do it because that's what it is. And that's just, like, bullshit. It's like, because what happens, that works for a while, but around 14, 15, 16, they're going to be like, what the no? And then around 17, they're going to start getting a little insubordinate because they know they're leaving. And around 18, that's when all hell usually breaks. Sometimes 17, but basically, parents, and I think this is a large problem with our problem in this country right now, is the lack of parent discipline, because the authorities have taken the jaws essentially away from the parents, because they're worried about abuse. And I can tell you by experience, there's a big difference between abuse and discipline. There is a difference. For some reason, they've got it in their head that any sort of, punishment is abuse. They're teaching these kids, like, as a first grade, that they can call the police on their parents. I didn't know that until I was in freshman or sophomore year of high school. And even then, I wouldn't have dared do that. I did it once because the circumstances were warranted it, but it caused me a lot of pain. And I'm going to tell my kid, look, I'm going to discipline you the way I see fit, because that's the way I feel on that. And it's really simple. Do what I ask you to do. I'm going to be doing things too. You're going to see me like that, doing that. And I mean, an example I could give is, like, if they're going to do dishes, I'm going to do dishes, or one day, or I'm going to do something else. I'm going to do something. I'm not going to be sitting there doing dishes. Oh, they're going to do dishes, and I'm going to sit and watch TV. That's nonsense. That's not a dad. Dad tells him to do something, then he does something, so everyone else can relax. And it's a lost thing. It's like when I was a kid, I was like, my dad, I told him, I want to be a general of an army, and he said, a general really eats last in the army. He's like, why? He says, because a good general makes sure his army eats first, and they're fed, so they're ready to go, or he doesn't eat. And then after they're fit, then he eats. And that's been lost in today's society, and that's kind of what's been lost in Napoleon Dynamite, in a sense. Is basically he was left to raise himself, and how he got to this level where he's, gosh, and he thinks tetherball's cool when he's like 15, 17. I mean, it's cool once in a while, like you see a tetherball, hey, let's go, you know, but it's not. It's, you're growing up, and it didn't help his family being so jacked up, not helping him. But then, like, they keep going. It's like, oh, well, I'm going to learn self-defense. I'm going to be a cage fighter. And it's like, dude, no, you're not. Shut up. Go join a gym. Now, I'm a little bad because I have not been to the gym in about a week, and I am feeling it, and I got to go back to the gym because it's holidays, and I'm being lazy on that. So I got to go back to the gym. But, I've got totally sidetracked in this Napoleon thing. But it was all relevant. Basically, the whole thing talks about, like, how kids deal with idiocies, like the Rex Kung Fu, and how do you want to get roundhouse with pants that look like parachute pants that look like MC Hammer with the American flag on it. No, I don't think I want to get roundhouse because I don't want to get roundhouse by something that looks like an idiot. I'll take a cop hitting me over the head with a nightstick other than those. But then there's other things like the uncle tries to get Kip involved in like selling neoprene plastic, which they sold a little bit, but they eventually ran out of the market. They have this one van. But then there's this whole thing where Napoleon meets this guy, Pedro. Pedro's gonna, ask a girl out, ask the finest girl in the school. They're like, no, they clown him. And then he asks the other girl, and she said yes. And they go out, and then Pedro's gonna run for president. They didn't tell Pedro. Very racist, and that's typical over some parts of this country. And I don't like, oh, we didn't tell you need to skit. So Napoleon is like, well, I'm gonna bail you out, and does this dancing. Now I will say there was a lot of funny sequences, but overall it was a very depressing movie to watch because you can't believe someone would be this stupid and like, gosh, and I'm gonna call the cops, get off my property. You don't know the property, your grandmother does, kid. You may be straight, and there's just poor family, and that's it's hard when you're that young dealing with that. And, it just kind of goes back and forth and all of this. The funniest thing was Pedro's cousins. The lowrider Mexicans, they were the funniest thing. Because Napoleon asked for a ride from his uncle, and because he's going to take this girl to the dance. And he's like running down the street, and he gets tired, and he's like, he realizes he's not going to make it in time. So the lowrider Mexicans show up. And they're like, hey, next thing you know, Napoleon's, and they're in the lowrider listening to, I think, some music, and they're like, hey, you guys know Pedro? Oh, yeah, Pedro, we know him. He's my cousin. And they're like, oh.